Shanti, Sister Janti, welcome.
Om Shanti Aranaben.
Welcome to everyone. So that was a song by Lata Mangeshkar ji, and she left her body yesterday, and the whole of India is mourning. And I find it interesting, gentlemen, that really she was not royalty, she was not a politician, she didn't really have any prominent figure role in the world as such, but she just sang her heart out. And they say that she was in a cotton sari with a golden voice, and something like 30,000 songs to her name over 7 decades in 36 languages. So
And
it's amazing.
Flags flying at half-mast in India for a person who is a simple woman.
Yes. And she never married for whatever reason, but she never married. And I always feel like there's something about purity that is an attribute to the soul and their success. So anyway, we were thinking of her and sending her sakash. And Sister Jayanti, you can add anything more in terms of one's journey in such a way. And really, gentlemen, she really left. It wasn't just the songs, but it was her nature, her character, that just such a kind-hearted person that left everybody. There were thousands that flocked the streets in her procession, and nobody asked them to go. So yeah, this is the power of love, isn't it?
And the power of purity. Definitely, purity has that power to attract souls. And as you said, that kindness and benevolent nature. You never heard a bad word about her. When there's celebrities, there's the glory, but there's always some sort of story in the background. And sometimes people want to promote that side. But for her, at least from where I sit, I never ever heard anyone have a bad word for her. Never.
Sure. So thank you, gentlemen. We'll let you start now.
Om Shanti. And yes, the whole Murli was about cleanliness and purity and the holy swans. It's a title that Baba often gives us, but today's Murli explains that first aspect of cleanliness. And of course, Baba made a promise that he'd take up other specialities of the Holy Swan later on. So there's more to come. And Baba always remembered, we would forget that Baba had said that I'll talk to you about XYZ. And Baba never forgot, but we would forget. And then Baba would come up with all the detail that he had reminded us, that he promised us. So today, Baba talking about thoughts, words, actions, and relationships, all of them with cleanliness. And in particular, Baba saying that you wear white clothes, the symbol of purity, cleanliness. And it's true, just a little stain on white clothes, and you have to make sure that it is washed away. And so dark clothes, and if there's a few stains here and there, you can carry on. Nobody will notice, you won't bother. But white clothes show it up so immediately. And so the holy swans, holy externally, pure cleanliness, but also internally. And if somebody is just clean externally, but you know that there's other things going on, then the comment would be, but what about the mind? Is the mind so clean? And Lord is pleased with an honest heart, and all the desires of those with cleanliness and honesty are fulfilled. So Baba's promise of that. And the fact that the deities are called completely viceless, completely full of 16 celestial degrees. And so nothing missing in that pure state, completely full. No blemish, no flaw, no stain, no nothing. And Baba's saying, well, when do you become that? You don't make effort as a deity. but it's today in your Brahman life that you're making effort and you've achieved that state. And then Baba began first with the body. Consider the body to be a temple, and also be a trustee for the body. You say, Tana Mana Dhan, body, mind, and wealth is yours, not mine. And so, are you a trustee for this? And so, that state of soul consciousness in which I'm detached from the body, but I'm very, very aware of how precious it is and how it's the temple through which I can serve. And so my duty, my responsibility to keep it absolutely clean. And so cleanliness is spirituality. And if I'm attached to the body, I'm not going to be able to be free and take care of it in the way that I should. But in my detachment from the body, then I'm able to really see what its needs are and to be able to fulfill those needs. And so the big responsibility of taking care of this as I would take care of a temple. And the greater the idol, the more beautiful the temple, elevated, Baba said. And so Brahman life is actually greater than deity life, because this is a life which is like a diamond, worth diamonds. The golden age, yes, you're as valuable as gold, but of course a huge amount of gold and one little diamond, and it comes to be equal. So very short space of time in Sangam Yuga, very short Brahman life. Deity life will go on for a few thousand years, but now that Brahman precious, valuable time in which my life is like a diamond. And so let me be able to realize the value of this temple and take care of it with that understanding. And then the mind. And because Baba's Murlis focus so much on the mind in so many different ways, the passage on mind was very, very short actually. But Baba, of course, saying, what does your mind do? Is your mind man manabha? Is your mind engaged in world service? Or does it go anywhere else? If the mind is attracted in any other direction, then no, you can't say that the mind is clean or pure, because then it will be tainted. And so cleanliness of the mind means to really make sure that it stays connected with Baba, and then whatever service it is Baba wants to do through you. World service, Baba mentioned. And interesting, because mind is thoughts, but also feelings. But Baba today was very consciously separating body, mind, and then heart, and then relationships. And so mind, Baba spoke about the thoughts and the consciousness of one, and then the heart. And in terms of the heart, Baba was also very, very loving and concerned and making sure that the heart is very clean and honest. And within that, Baba was talking so much about how to keep that pure state of the heart. And so what are the feelings in your heart? What are your feelings towards others? And so are they filled with that benevolence? Are they filled with that goodness? But most of all, two particular things. Honesty with yourself in terms of your effort and honesty with Baba. And then honesty in terms of service. And Baba was connecting that with the heart. Interesting. And so this aspect of honesty with myself, am I able to see myself clearly? And am I able to put that in front of Baba so that I can take Baba's help and do whatever it is I need to do to keep the heart completely clean and pure? And the second, in terms of service, do I consider service to be a duty? Well, there are people who go to Lockheed jobs, and usually Baba uses the word government service, but it means service out there in the world. So not just a civil service job, but any job that's out there in the world. But Baba calls it government service. And so serving the world, serving my government as a citizen in that sense. And so in that sense, Baba was saying that there are some who do their job with as a sense of duty, and they'll either do it with carelessness or a sense of compulsion that this is what I'm supposed to do, I have to do it. And we all know what the results of that are, not very good. But for Brahmins again, am I doing service because I'm supposed to, because I should do, because others expect me to do it? Or is it truly from my heart? And if it's from my heart, it'll be visible in the results, and it'll be visible also in my life, that it's being done with that love and that joy, and not out of compulsion or carelessness or just simply a sense of duty. But interesting again that Baba called service your original dharma and karma. What is a Brahmin life about? It is about serving. And so do that with your heart. And I remembered when I was 15 years old, I'd gone to India and seeing the poverty there. I thought, my life can't be for myself. My life has to be one of service. And so I didn't know how and what and when. But then what drew me to Brahmin life was, of course, Baba's teachings, the beauty of the knowledge, but also then my first exposure to service with Dadi Prakash Mani in Mahabaleshwar, which is a beautiful mountain resort near Pune. And that intoxication of what it means to serve was so amazing that I came back and said to Dadi, I want to surrender. So it reminded me of that experience of how just that love for Gyan and love for service is absolutely the original life of a Brahmin, and the dharma and the karma. And then relationships. And Baba took the most time to explain about all of this and how there's a relationship of souls who are Brahmins, the relationship with new students, and then the relationship with your Lokik family. And in a way, the rest of the world, because they would also be part of that Lokik environment, whether at work or anything else. And Baba took it up totally within that context, and he didn't separate it any further. But the essential thing that Baba was reminding us there is that if I'm light and easy and happy in terms of my relationships, everything is fine. If I'm heavy about something, then it means I've lost that spiritual awareness. And then, of course, if I'm heavy about something, I'm definitely not happy. And in that state, I'm discontent. I'm discontent with myself, and then, of course, discontent with others around me. But also, they are then probably not going to be content with me. If I'm happy with them, they're more likely to be happy with me. But it works both ways in that sense. But it starts from inside. And so, can I stay spiritually conscious, aware of who I am? And then in that stage, I'll stay light and easy instead of being burdened and heavy about anything. And so, yes, then I can truly give happiness to all those around me and make them content too. And Baba really is talking about then the happiness that comes from that inner stage of cleanliness on all these levels of relationships. Then it means that I can dance with joy. And so one who is clean and clear and honest is one who's able to dance. And so the life of great happiness through that state of inner cleanliness. And Baba's wonder is that we know that complications arise in relationships and all of those things. And Baba's simply saying, let your heart be very clean. let your consciousness be clean and clear, and it's going to be fine. And of course, speaking to the teachers and that stage where if you are clean and your motives and service are clean, nothing for the self, no selfish intention or motivation, then the Bhandara, the treasure chest, will be full. And Bhandara, the kitchen, the treasure store of the kitchen will always be full, but also the Bhandari, the treasure chest, will also be full. And there'll never be the thought or the worry, well, I want to do this, but how will it happen? It's not possible. And this beautiful statement that where there are thoughts of pure service, then the means to be able to fulfill that service will also become available. And there'll be abundance and there'll be success. So worrying about students, who's coming, why not, how can I increase it? No, don't be worried. Just be light and easy and happy. Stay with Baba, and Baba's then responsible. And teachers, easy for them. It's service in everything you do, whether it's giving gyan, whether it's washing clothes, whether it's cooking, whatever it is, it's service, and the results are that of great happiness. And yes, with Lokik life, you do have to think about the world out there and everything that's going on. And so Baba reminding us of that too. So the fortune of becoming teachers and so forth. Very lovely. And Maharashtra, Baba talked to them about living in the jungle of thorns, but still staying very, very happy and content. And so Baba's real message, whether it's cleanliness or whether it's purity, be the holy swans, but are you happy? Because if you're happy, then this is the index. This is the proof of your connection with Gyan and yoga and everything else. And if you're happy, then even if illness comes to the body, then the power of your happiness will help you manage all of that. You won't get stuck with it. You'll be able to either go beyond it, or you'll be able to find ways to be able to sustain it and manage yourself. So the message of happiness to the people from Maharashtra. And of course, today also very much the state where people are worried about so many different things. And can they stay happy? Well, if they can't, at least I should be able to, so that then I'm able to share that happiness and do the service that Baba wants me to do. But again, another very fascinating paragraph about, do you think you have 10 years, 12 years? And of course, it's the time before the year 2000. And so at that point, I don't know how many of you were around, but but a lot of people had the thought that, well, by the year 2000, everything will be done, we'll be ready to go home. And of course, here we are, 2022. And so Baba's saying to them, oh, don't think about the year and whether it's another 20 years to go or not. Don't even think about that. But think about, are you ever ready? If the soul were to leave the body now, what would be your percentage of purity? How far have you come on your journey? And so check yourself and don't let any other thought come. Just make the preparations. And also another passage that Baba had spoken, in which Baba said for the teachers, if you have thoughts about, what about this, what about that? No, don't have any such thoughts. But yet in another passage, Baba also said that if you're checking yourself, you will have the thought, I shouldn't have done this, or this could have been done differently. And that is important, because that is what's going to keep the soul light and easy. Otherwise, if there isn't that checking within, then there's going to be heaviness that starts coming. But the heaviness is coming because it's wrong things that are multiplying and adding up. And so these thoughts of checking yourself, Baba does want you to have those, but not thoughts about this thing, that thing, and the other thing out there, but the checking going on inside. And so that's very important. And again, I found that that last passage, in a way, it seemed to come as a completely separate topic. It was very, very important. And that was, how do I respond when I see people who are not doing what they should do, not behaving in the way that they should? And Baba used strong language. It might be someone like Kans, the devil, who was trying to kill Krishna, Jarasandhi, Ravan, you know, all these names from the Sakar Murlis. Even if they are as bad and as evil as that, yet your response should be one of mercy, of benevolence, and the good feelings and the good wishes that can maybe help them transform also. Don't keep any dislike in your heart. If there's dislike, then there's going to be anger and reactivity. And so I found that that was really, really a lesson for current times, in that we do see Brahmins behave in a reactive way. We do see crazy things going on in the world outside. But Baba's telling me what I need to do to make sure that I stay on track. And what I have to do is follow the Father. And what would Baba do? Well, Baba is benevolent, Baba is compassionate, and Baba is the one who's able to give them the power to transform. The Baba's reminding me that as Baba's child, this is also what I need to do. So the lesson on cleanliness, on purity, thoughts, words, actions, relationships being clean. And it's lovely that Baba simplified the word purity to cleanliness, because it does make it much easier to relate to, in a sense. You know if something's clean or not. Pure, well, what level of purity, what percentage of purity, and how does it really work? But Baba using the word clean, and it makes it very simple to understand. Okay.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Nice synopsis as always. So shall we talk about this multi-million-dollar fragrance of spirituality? And it's not a fragrance we can buy anywhere, and yet we can develop it. So, gentlemen, what are the components? Yes, our thoughts, our feelings. Is there anything more? And consistency, I think, is another thing, isn't it? Consistent. And also, I was thinking letting go so that you're not fermenting inside. So, yeah, if you could answer that, fragrance of spirituality.
I don't know how many of you met Queen Mother, and I'm not talking about the Queen Mother of England or Sweden or anywhere else that still has royalty, but Queen Mother was a name that Baba gave to Didi Manmoini's mother, and the three of them had come to Gyan together. Didi Manmoini, the spark who first lit the light, and then her mother, and then her younger sister Shilendra Dadi. And Shilendra Dadi lived in Bombay, and Baba called her the governor. She handled the finances and the banking for the Yagya in Bombay. And so all three of them, very powerful, lovely individuals. But Queen Mother, there was no question of perfume or even fragrance soap or anything. But as soon as you'd come close to her, you'd get this sense of her cleanliness and purity. and her innocence and joy. And so sometimes if you just think about a quality, then you're trying to work it out. But if you think about a person, who exudes that particular quality, it makes it very easy. So I would add to the list that you were talking about just sheer innocence. And even though she was older than everybody else, of course, one of the mothers who had come, she had not just the innocence of the child, but also that very lovely joy of a child, just constantly sparkling. And she was the one who used to tell us, Mara, Mara, Sika, Sirka, Juka, Juka, die, bow down, have humility. And so learn. She would remind us of this. So I saw this in Queen Mother. But the other thing that connected again with a memory, and when the soul leaves the body, then the body is, of course, that life force is gone. And so within a very short space of time, the face changes, the color changes, and it's sometimes manageable, but sometimes not very pleasant at all. And in Baba's case, it showed absolutely no sign of decay from Saturday night through to Tuesday. Now that is a long stretch, but it was winter time, so that's another factor. But still, even in winter, it's quite amazing. And what I attribute that to is how Baba had such purity that the whole physical body had become so clean and pure. And so there was no stagnation, no decay, even that space of the several days that passed before the cremation. And so when you saw Baba's face, it was just as if Baba was resting, and it was a rose flower surrounded by roses, literally physical red roses. So those two things come to mind with the spirituality and the fragrance. Very clean hearts, very generous hearts, hearts that were concerned for the well-being of others, and so real benevolence. And so all of that, I think, is part of that fragrance. When you're close to somebody who's got ulterior motives, or motives other than concern for others, and there's some self-interest there, then you can feel it, you can pick it up, and it doesn't feel clean. And so when you're in the presence of a yogi, I've mentioned Queen Mother and Brahma Baba, but also the Dadis. You knew that what Dadi Janki, for example, but also Dadi Gulzar, Dadi Prakashmani, you knew that what Dadi was saying to you was purely for your benefit. There was no motive that she had in anything in it for herself. And so whatever question you'd ask her, her concern was your spiritual progress. That's it. And so I think that that also is part of the fragrance of spirituality.
Yeah, yes, that's very nice. And when you say genuine purity, it's not just pure thoughts. Like, it's not just I'm a soul, you're a soul, or it's not just absence of lustful thoughts. What is, when you say he was full of purity, what are you meaning?
Baba was not pulled by any of the physical senses. And so Baba wasn't concerned about his physical comfort. Baba wasn't concerned about food and drink and all of these for himself. So none of the physical senses pulled him in any way at all. Baba would see the soul. Baba would be concerned about bringing the soul closer to God. That's it. And so that pure, elevated consciousness, and of course, then whatever is going on in the mind, there's responses in the body. we know that now even in more detail than we did before. And so, yes, if there's anger, what's going to happen to the state of my body? There's going to be all sorts of things rushing around, and it's not going to be very healthy, and it's going to cause problems. And for Baba, that state in which, from the time that Shiv Baba had started to use him, there's a lovely expression that Baba used the other day, because there's been a lot of murlis about Shiv Baba, Brahma Baba, and how they work together. And so this expression that Brahma Baba staying in company with Shiv Baba was also colored and absorbed his sanskaras. And so that sanskara of benevolence and total concern for others, that they should come closer to God. So pure thoughts on that level.
Yeah, yeah, that's really nice. And also the image comes to mind, like if if you're tempted by some food, then really that the image is just like gluttonous, isn't it? It's not nice. Yeah.
This morning I'd said that, the nose is, sometimes Baba talks about the nose being cut by Maya, and so that sign of respect and honor being lost, because everybody sees your nose, and so your respect is gone, your honor is gone. But also the other aspect of the nose is fragrance and smell. And so you smell something nice being cooked and you want to eat it. And instead of thinking, it's out of love, I'm cooking for Baba and I'm going to offer it to Baba, you think, oh, I'd really like to have a taste of that right now. And or even things that are not right, that are not sattvic, sometimes their smell triggers it, and you don't even check if the cake has eggs in it or not, and you want to eat it. So the nose can lead you astray also. It was that Murli in which Baba was talking about the conquest of the senses, and Baba talked about the eyes a lot in that, but also taste and gluttony. Baba spoke about that.
Yeah. So anyway, you've left us a thought to churn on and to check. Yeah, very nice. Thank you. So can we just also talk about the body a little bit? I know he talked about body being the temple, but I think also, gentlemen, in these last several years where we're on Zoom Dham, maybe people are not fully aware of the dharana of the body. And also, gentlemen, connected with this, people say that sometimes they have to take medicines with onion, or well, mostly garlic, not onion. And then you can smell this bad breath of garlic, but they're not taking garlic per se, but at least. So, Jenny, I know we take shower after number 2, and then changing of clothes. You already mentioned, and Dadi used to say, if you wear black trousers, it's still going to get dirty. It's not that it's not dirty. So maybe some dharnas and reasons why around cleanliness of the body.
It just feels clean and fresh after bowel movement to just have a shower properly instead of just washing your hands, but the whole body still carries a bit of that odor. And so physical cleanliness, removing the odor, but also what I've been told is that the pH of the skin changes, the acidity. And so to again wash that away, because when you're eliminating, it's not just from the bowels, but the pores of your skin are also eliminating. That's also one of the big mechanisms that the body has for elimination, your skin. And so to have a proper shower, proper bath after elimination from the bowels, and so that'll make you feel much, much fresher and happier. And so that's important. And people don't always know that, because sometimes teachers are a bit shy to talk about it. But Baba's talked about it in the Murli, actually. But yes, change of clothes, proper cleanliness, that's so important. And there's always alternatives. When doctors tell you, you must have this medicine and this and this and this, find an alternative. And there will be an alternative that is available, which is probably more helpful and sattvic. like even capsules, they'll tell you, well, it's got gelatin and it doesn't really matter. But it doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel right. It's animal product, gelatin. And so look for something which is really clean and sattvic. And because so many people have so many allergies now, of course, because our immune system has been decreasing its level of energy, and so our immune system generally is quite low. And the connection of that, of course, and also corona was very clear. And so, generally speaking, because of the toxins in the air, the water, the food, and even where you get organic products, organic vegetables and fruits, but the water that they're drawing from in terms of groundwater and the water table, you don't know how clean that is. And so, yes, you can be concerned about the soil and yes, organic and no fertilizer, but the groundwater is everywhere the same. And so just organic isn't enough. And this is why Baba says, cook in Baba's remembrance, not in remembrance of my husband, my son, my daughter likes this, and so I'm going to cook this and this and this for them. Cook for Baba. And that power is going to remove the toxins, the energy of that, and also offer it to Baba with love. And again, that's part of the purification process. And so definitely, if we look at terms of percentages within the Brahmin community, I don't think we've had so many departures within the Brahmin family across the world. I know that there have been some departures, but still within 1 million people, I don't think the figures are as high as they probably would be out there. And so following Baba's systems, and of course, cleanliness in food and hygiene in terms of food is such an important factor. Vegetarian diet anyway is a big safety factor for health. Vegan is the next step, but beyond vegan and organic is sattvic, in which it's really clean, pure, offered to God, and then we accept it and it's filled with God's love and energy. And that definitely is an added bonus for the body, helping the body not just physically, but also emotionally and spiritually.
So somebody's just asking, what about if they're at work, how to attend to the bowel movement?
You'll find that probably you can regulate yourself, get to know your own body and how the body works. And so you'll probably find that if you start regulating the body, I was thinking about it and how in India, people train their children really to have a bowel movement first thing in the morning, and then through the day, things are clear. And also, you know what triggers your body reactions, whether it's some type of drink that's doing that, whether it's some kind of food that's doing that. And so just keep it in mind and see how it goes.
But could we also say, like, it's a good idea maybe to just, when you come home, to have a shower, because it also removes all the Lokik vibes, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that during COVID times when some people were having to go to work, it was absolutely a necessity to come home and first thing straight into the shower, change of clothes, just for protection for themselves and the family. And so I think generally speaking, the people I know always do this, come home, shower, change, and then they're fresh for whatever other activity.
Thank you. This has come up a couple of times, of actually 3 times, similar question. If you can just clarify, gentlemen, the difference between the mind and the heart. Because it sounds similar, but maybe one is thought and one is feeling. I don't know. I'll leave it to you.
No, that's how I would understand it. And that's my experience of it, that when I'm thinking about something, then it's not so much connected with the heart, more it's connected with the brain. And yet when it's a feeling that I'm experiencing, and of course thoughts lead to feelings also, so when it's a feeling that I'm experiencing, then when the heart begins to race and thump, whether it's a good feeling of joy and love, or whether it's a bad feeling of fear and anxiety, the place where you begin to feel it is here. And so I think this is why feelings and heart have been connected in this way, though of course the heart that's actually experiencing the feelings is here. So you have two hearts. You've got one heart in here, which is the actual receptor for anything. But of course, then things don't just stay in here, they have an impact on the whole system and where you begin to feel things. And so why Baba comments sometimes that when children from abroad send letters, then they have the symbol of the heart there. So this is connected, but it's the heart in here. And so yes, thoughts, mind. And so when people say she's just in her mind all the time, just thinking and overthinking, but pause for a moment and let your thoughts become a feeling. Like, for example, when I say Om Shanti, if it's just Om Shanti just off the top of my head, it's very different. When it's Om Shanti, and I can feel that sense of peace that Om Shanti is supposed to give me. And so when Daddy used to make us say Om Shanti 3 times, it wasn't just sound, but she was actually wanting us to feel that Shanti, that peace, or that joy.
Yes, thank you. And here's a question. So Baba said in the Murli that we should be careful effort makers and check that I should not have said this, I should not have done that. So does this not create a heavy state of mind and take us away from being that carefree emperor?
I touched on it a bit earlier, but there's a big difference between worry and just using the soul to be able to check where it's going and how to go further. And so if I'm just thinking, I shouldn't have, well, that's just nonsense. But I shouldn't have said this. Okay, understood. Added to my list of attention. And so as I continue, then I've checked myself and I've paused for a moment, the other person speaking. And now my next sentence is going to be different. It's not going to be in the tone that it was earlier. Even the content is going to be different because I realized that maybe I was speaking with angst, maybe I was speaking with ego. And so now, okay, I've checked myself, I'm back here. And now my response is going to be different. And so this is what Baba means. You're not just checking at the end of the day when you've forgotten all this sort of detail. No way anybody can remember that. But if I'm aware, I'm so conscious and I'm checking as we go along, then I'll catch myself before it becomes a huge display of anger or my arrogance and ego just takes everything over. And so I said something and maybe not even waiting for you to speak, I've got something more to say, but even just a momentary pause and I catch myself and I can shift it, I can change it.
Right. Gentlemen, I wonder if we can just take a moment. Last week you talked about confluence age and golden age, like this equals this. And then Baba said that as as elevated as the idol, so is the temple elevated. So do you have any as is for now to Copper Age? You understand, like as a Brahmin, so their temple, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lovely point that Baba has often made in the Avyak Murlis. If today I'm accurate in my disciplines, say, for example, my early morning rising, my time with Baba in Murli and so on, and then my preparation of food, offering food to Baba, if I'm accurate in these disciplines and I do it out of love every day, then in the Copper Age, accordingly, my Bhagats will make sure that, yes, they will wake up early to ring the bell in my temple. They will prepare food to offer every day with love, not just on festival days, but every day. Pork will be offered with love. They'll do all of those things with the same love with which I'm doing what I'm doing today. And if I'm doing it carelessly or haphazardly or just occasionally, well, that's it. They'll also do the same for me and my image later on. And so that's a very clear connection that Baba has made.
But gentlemen, why is that important? I mean, are we aware? Are we aware that we are being worshipped? Like, why? Well, we're not aware in the Coppery. We'll be somewhere else playing another part in the body, right? So
probably worshipping your own image. Like Baba said that, Vishnu, Narayan, and Baba used to worship Lakshmi and Narayan and carry their image in his pocket. And so, and Gandhiji, Baba sometimes talked about that in Sakar Murlis, that today somebody who has a huge reverence for Gandhi is probably the soul who was Gandhi. There'll be others, of course, also, but there is that now and future. And so it doesn't matter whether I'm worshipped or not in the Copper Age. What matters is the quality of what I do things, how I do things today. So do I wake up and say, oh, I'm supposed to be there for yoga and I don't really want to be? Or is it that really I want to be with Baba, and so I do it with that love? So the reward is here and now, but there'll be a connection with what happens in the Copper Age. I won't remember it and I won't know it, but the beauty of what I'm doing now in Sangam Yuga is the instant fruit I receive from it. That's the other big difference of Confluence Age and a whole cycle. Now, Baba says you do with one hand and you receive with the other hand. It's immediate, instant fruit. You have a bad thought, your happiness goes. You have a good thought and you feel content with yourself and things work out well. And so instant results.
Sorry, just for my clarification. So, gentlemen, if wherever you are in the Copper Age, could you be getting some of those vibes? Like, is that helping the soul?
You'd be
somebody worshiping your image, is that helping the soul?
It's just that affinity. You feel very close to that particular deity. You feel close to that being. And so it's helping in the sense that I'm aware of their qualities, and those qualities are probably the guiding light, the compass in my life. And so if I'm seeing the beauty of the deity in terms of the love, the wisdom, the generosity, the power, whatever it is that I'm appreciating, well, that becomes the guiding light for me in my life.
Okay, thank you so much. I will take a few more questions from chat. Somebody's saying the destination is very high and there are feelings of despair and guilt. How to deal with it?
To know that I still have time to deal with whatever I need to deal with. If I choose, I can do whatever it is I wish to at this moment. Later, there's nothing more that can be done. But now, while Baba is still the loving parent, the wise teacher, the kind, compassionate teacher, the Satguru who's willing to guide me by my hand and lead me further, all of this is still possible and available. So not to wallow in self-pity in the past, but actually to say, okay, I want to move ahead. Baba's still there to help me. Let me do what I can. I believe in that implicitly, absolutely. I think that this is still the time. It's the last chapter, but there's still time to take Baba's help, and your pure intentions and your courage and your faith will bring multi-million-fold help. Baba will keep the door open.
Right. Again, I maybe to make the soul happy. What happens to the soul when it leaves the body? How long that soul is floating? At what week of pregnancy does the soul enter the womb?
The soul doesn't usually float. Baba says it's a rocket. It goes from one into the next, the destination, into the mother's womb. And so I don't know about precise weeks, but it's at that point where the mother feels the quickening. That's what they call it, the quickening. And so she feels that first movement in her womb, and she'll know that that's the sign of life there. Until then, I think it's biological, mechanical, but the life force, the entry of the soul is at that point. And I don't know precisely biologically.
Okay, thank you. When you do spiritual service for a soul, should you do it considering that it's selflessly for Shiv Baba or selflessly for the soul?
I think I have to keep in mind that my aim is to bring that soul closer to Baba. And so if it's this soul that I'm doing it for, great. But if it's this soul that I have the opportunity to serve, let me be just as happy. Otherwise, if I'm just doing it for this soul, then there's some sort of emotional connection there, which is not healthy. It's going to become an attachment, or maybe it is already an attachment. And so that's going to interfere in bringing that soul closer to Baba. I'll be in the way, and they'll be in the way for me also. And so do it for Baba and help whichever soul it is that you have the opportunity to serve, not thinking about somebody else when there's this person in front of you, or thinking that, well, there's only 2 people in front of me here, and I could be serving 200 people somewhere else. Very interesting example of Dadi Janki. Must be applicable for many others too. But in 1974, when she came to London, she knew that there was very little happening in London, which is why Baba sent her. But she was already, by then, the teacher of teachers and the person running all the bhattis in India. 69, and Baba had said, what will happen in Madhuban is these bhattis, these retreats for different groups and so on. Baba gave a very clear plan of action. And immediately, Didi and Dadi asked Dadi Janki to take responsibility for that. And so the first few months were teachers' trainings. But after that, then it was the mothers, the brothers, and so on and so on. And so between 69 and 74, that period of time, she was more or less permanently in Madhuban, serving hundreds, literally hundreds. And she knew she was coming to London, and there were no students in the early morning. They would be coming afternoon and evening. But she started morning class just with the people who'd come from Bharat at that time to help with the exhibitions in Regent Street, Oxford Street, that had been lined up. And just 5 of us, 6 of us in the class, and her class would be, as it is usual, the Murli, 45 minutes, and then, her churnings. And she didn't skimp on it. She didn't think, well, there's only 5 people in front of me, but she just did whatever was there with love. And of course, the 5 has multiplied to hundreds now. And then, of course, by the time she was in Madhuban, it was thousands again. So just think of Baba and do Baba's service rather than one soul.
Dadi also used to read the Murli to herself. I mean,
yeah,
she kept the discipline despite anybody there.
Correct.
Maybe we'll make this the last question. Is insomnia related to the mind, and how to deal with that?
Insomnia has so many different causes. Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? All of these factors. And so I think you first need to eliminate, is it something physical? Am I too cold? Am I too hot? Am I feeling too heavy? Have I eaten dinner too late? All those sorts of things. And you can find out about all of these things now. There's a lot of information available. Is it mental? Is it that my brain has been so active that I can't get it to slow down and sleep? Maybe it's even the fact that I'm exposing myself to the electromagnetic devices and all the Wi-Fi and all of these things. Nowadays, insomnia is connected very much with those things also. So switch off all devices and see if that helps you. And not just at the time you want to go to sleep, but do it at least an hour beforehand. Emotional. Somebody said something and that's troubling me. So try not to have difficult conversations at night, because that's going to make the mind really upset and concerned, and it's going to be troubling you. Spiritual. Are there things that happen today that are buzzing around in my conscience and I'm not able to sleep because of that? So different remedies for different things, but just check yourself and find out which box you can tick and where it is you can say, no, it's not this, it's not this, it's not that. And the best way, read something spiritual, not just the Murli, but one of Baba's books. If you prefer the Murli, fine. So read something spiritual and spend time with Baba, and then it's going to be better.
Thank you, gentlemen. Wonderful as always. I just remembered one story. Vinu Ben, I was listening to Vinu Ben, or Veena Ben, who used to be in Madhuban. And so she was saying that she was so young and she didn't know how to do many things. So one day Baba said, why don't you cook? And then Baba actually told her that when she cooks, she has to keep her mouth closed. One was so that no spit could fall into the food, but also so that they are quiet and silent. So she was saying how, and Baba also told her, always put less salt, because you can always add it later, but you can never extract the salt later. So such small things Baba taught all of us.
Very practical lessons. Yeah. So
yes, next week is February 14th, gentlemen, Valentine's Day. So we'll see you all next week, and we'll end with meditation. Thank you so much.
Om Shanti to everyone.